Good morning, afternoon, evening, ladies and gentlemen, whatever time you're tuning in the program here this afternoon on flinttalkradio.com. I'm George Moss, the host of the program that comes on at 2 o'clock, right here at the number one studio in Genesee County. And we're bringing you a special program today for 30 minutes, and we are featuring one of the candidates running in the 7th District for the County Commission position. We're very happy that you're out there this afternoon. Hope you'll stay tuned. And tell your friends about the candidacy that is going to be discussed here at the studio at this time. We have with us, and we're very honored to have with us, Mr. Andrew Everman, who I interviewed and met for the first time last week at the White Horse, where we're interviewing all the candidates running for the county commission seats. And we were very impressed, and we asked him to come in the studio along with the others who will possibly come later, to tell us more about his candidacy. And I understand that he is the former Mott Community College trustee and the president of Genesee County Conservation District Treasury and the owner of Impression Printing, which is located in Clio. He's a businessman, and we definitely need some business experience on the county commission to be able to handle our tax dollars, so we're glad to see business persons running. Mr. Everman, I want to welcome you to the studio, and we're very delighted you came.
Thank you, George.
Okay.
Appreciate being here.
Okay, and I know that Archie Bailey, who has been on the county board for approximately 10 years, I think that the record shows, is stepping down. So
Yes.
have you run for that seat before?
Yes, I ran against Archie 2 years ago, and there was one other candidate, Sally Ridley. The three of us ran, and Archie's a very good campaigner, knows his issues well, and he's been willing to help all the candidates that are running this time. I don't know that Archie has endorsed any of us. I believe Archie's position, and I'm speaking out of turn for him, but I believe he wants the best possible candidate, whoever that would be.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that the candidates, I did say this last week, I thought that there were some impressive answers. Let me ask you, what do you think about the way the county board has handled its business in the past? What do you think you're going to bring to the table that we have not had at this point? I guess I'm asking for your motivation on why you decided to run this time again for the seat.
I believe I have the energy, the sound judgment, the compassion to work to build a transparency so that the voters understand what county government can do for them and what the importance is of the county government. I also been a public administration student at U of M Flint, and I believe performance budget is very important to understanding your budget, making sure that monies are spent appropriately and for the best interest of our community. It's a challenging position in the sense that there's not as much revenue that there have been in the past, so dollars need to be spent wisely. Also, I do not believe it's appropriate for either the board members or other elected officials to get into these catfights and then end up suing each other. It's a waste of county taxpayers' money. It's also a waste of individuals' time and energy when we can be doing things creatively to move the county forward in a positive way.
I think that this suit that's going forward right now is an indication of wasting taxpayers' money. The one where I guess there's an argument going on between Cherry's office and the county board about the monies from the bank, the land bank, and there's a dispute going on. I think the court has said fairly clearly that there's no argument to be made here, yet they're appealing the verdict has been made at that particular court level. And I think that's what you're talking about as far as the dollars. Are you aware of the lawsuits that have been?
Yes, and this is a concern that each of us who, as we step into the board, whomever wins will learn more of the details that currently anyone running who tries to make believe that they know more than we actually do, that's inappropriate. Until we're in the seat and are briefed by the legal counsel, we should not be making comments on it.
I see. You have to get inside in order to know what's going on from the insider standpoint.
Yes.
I think that's reasonable. Your experience in terms of your position on the Mott Community College trustees board, what were your, did you have any treasury responsibilities there as well? Or?
I served on the finance committee with Dr. John Snell, and our treasurer is Al Kogel. And most everyone would know him from Kogel Hot Dogs. Al, John, and I are very financially conservative. That could come from all of us being business people, and we want to make sure we receive value for the money that's being spent. One of the things that we were very adamant about was that the money is actually spent on fulfilling our mission of the college. Most of the time, that happens. There's a few times things happen, but we get that under control as quickly as possible.
I just finished an article on Facebook, and I was saying that some of the ones on Mount Rushmore, maybe one or two of them should come down, put businessmen up there. I have a lot of respect for businessmen. I think that's what's made this country great, and they don't get enough credit for what they do. Your business background, you are now the owner of Impression Printing. How long have you been on?
Since 1988, I've had Impression Printing, and started out, and it's a small business. And as the technology has changed, we've had to change also and grow and evolve. Most people who have been around for a long time will remember letter presses that went to offset, which has now gone to digital printing. It's amazing the changes and how quickly we can put things out now. It used to take a lot longer.
I'll tell you why. I have a lot of respect for business persons. If they make the mistakes that politicians make, they're out of business. So you have to be austere in your budget planning and things of that sort, and make good business decisions, because you can't go into the taxpayers' pockets and then extract the money because you made some political mistake. And so you do bring that to the table. You're running for
George, just in defense of other politicians who are not here.
Okay.
And I have not done this, but
okay.
Some of the decisions that you have to make as a businessman are pretty easy, because I can pound my fist on the table and say, this is what will happen, this is what I want, and this is what I need.
Okay.
In the political arena, we must work with other elected officials to come to a consensus that we feel is in the best interest of our community. And sometimes it doesn't work out the way we planned. But we can't just force our will. We have to work as a collective team. And I think that's important to remember when we're bringing it into the county commissioners. We have to work as a team. That does not mean we agree on every topic, which we should not. There has to be a strong dialogue. There's nothing wrong with the dialogue and discussion. It's just when it gets personal, that's not appropriate.
I see what you're saying. I agree with you. I guess my cynicism is coming through, because I do think that I just don't see how the public welfare is put as number one, and maybe that's what you're bringing to the table. I see too many instances where I think that the taxpayers are being dismissed, and hopefully that'll be something that would in fact change. Some of the lawsuits that have been filed is an indication of that, and you are saying here in your campaign that the
transparency
is one way to,
as well as performance budgeting. And performance budgeting, in its simplest term, is the expense for whatever line item. How does that relate to the mission of the county? And is it being fulfilled? And if it's not, why are we spending the money on that line item? And that's what we have to look at. It's a challenge to go through each item on the line item budget. But that doesn't mean you need to go out and hire someone because they have a pickleberry idea and want to be the consultant and tell us how to do purchasing best. The people that actually work in the purchasing department and people that work at the county have wonderful ideas, It's just we have to engage them and allow them the opportunity to bring them forth to us so that we can look at those ideas. Commissioners don't have all the ideas. The important thing I have found while out campaigning door to door, many of the constituents have wonderful ideas. They've just not been listened to. People don't go knock doors and find things out. They run their campaigns over the internet. They throw yard signs up. They do robocalls. They're not really there on the feet on the ground talking to the people and finding out what they're thinking. And if you bring that into the table, don't disappear. I'm not going to disappear into the bowels of county government once I'm elected. Anyone that knows me, particularly when I was on the MOP board, I was on campus. I talked to faculty, staff, and students. I got to know what the issues were so that I could bring that to the table. That's imperative. And just like a businessman who does not want to go out of business, you have to constantly be reviewing, looking at things, and understanding what is in the best interest. And that's what we need to bring to the county board.
I see. Were you one of the ones on the that were in favor of having meetings at different times and different places?
Yes, I brought that forward at the last week, and perhaps other candidates have too. But currently the county commissioners meet in the morning, and that's not appropriate for all the citizens because they work. It would be nice to have it in the evening, and at Mott College, we've had meetings while I was a trustee in Lapeer County. We have a campus there, and the Clio, and we've had them in the Fenton and Livingston County in the past. Great ideas for the college, but it's also a good idea for the county so that people, for example, in Fenton, would have, if they have a concern, that they could address it to the county board, just as the people in Montrose or Clio would like to.
You were pretty much in agreement with the other candidates on that. I think you also were one of the ones that you said you would favor the county executive. Was that your position?
Yeah,
also?
but it's not something that should be done immediately. I think this is at minimum an 8-year planning process. If you look at what the city of Flint has just done, the city of Flint takes a lot of harsh criticism. However, some of it's justified, others are not. They just did their master plan, and the way they engaged the community, got the input. I think if we're going to look seriously at a county executive, we have to engage the entire county in what their expectations are, what the deliverables would be, how would we either appoint or would it be an elected position? What's in the best interest? And we need to look at the best practices, what Louisville, Kentucky has done, what Indianapolis has done. Both cities have used processes similar to this. L. Brooks Patterson, whether you like him or not, a strong county executive, and that county has been very successful. So we need to look at all of that, and this is not something that could be done overnight. There needs to be buy-in from the stakeholders of the community.
There are 83 counties in Michigan, and I just think that I know we want to have local autonomy and local control, but 83 counties, and none of them are coordinating any of the efforts, seems to me a waste of some of the political capital they have in terms of being able to speak to the centralized authorities that are in Lansing. So do you think there is a need for maybe a regional kind of, I'm not saying lose your autonomy in the process, but some kind of regional organization of the counties in this area, for example, so that the counties are talking to each other and getting kind of like a collective understanding of how they can then be more in one accord in terms of position themselves to make some impression on Lansing, as an example?
George, I think this is a good idea. And once again, we can look to the model of the community colleges. We have just, I believe it was last October, we hired an individual that will coordinate looking at what would be the best businesses, job creation, training, and education that should go forth for the region, for example, like Delta, Mott Community College. I forget all the colleges that are in this region. But that's a good idea, and it's a great idea, because if we go to Lansing collectively to move forward on what we need for our region, it's in the best interest of us. We also then have more state reps, state senators that we're working with to get the projects done that are in best interest of our region.
I'll tell you my concern. The 19-cent gasoline proposal, where we'll probably have some of the highest taxes on gasoline in the country, is we're talking about fixing the roads. And it seems to me when you pay your renewal fees, your license fees for driving and things of that sort, you're paying for the road services. And it just seems to me to be kind of a dismissal of taxpayers' best interest when you talk about fixing the roads after taking the money that you had for the roads and putting it somewhere else. And that's why I was asking about the kind of organizational things at the county level, where there could be some kind of making sure that we are able to speak in a much larger sense at the local levels, but the local levels being multiple in terms of numbers, the regional kind of organizational things that allow for there to be some power behind the voices that may be more absent from the political process if you got 83 counties speaking in 83 different voices. That's what I was asking about the regional kind of things.
I'll give you an example that has come up many times, whether I'm in Flushing, Montrose, Clio, or any of the townships. They talk about the roads. The roads, number one topic. Everybody's charging it forward. We're going to fix the roads. Routinely, people come up with this idea. They complain about the 19-cent gas tax. Many of them feel they wouldn't have a problem if they voted for a tax to fix the roads. For example, bond, they'd float the bond and they would cover the cost of that. An example I could use is at Mott College, once again, where we have a bond issue to keep up the facilities. This has not been something that I suggested. This has come just in conversations while knocking on doors. Their concern, however, is the state politicians will misappropriate the funds, and their example is the lottery. There's a lot of misconception that the money from the lottery didn't go into education as had been expected. Well, yes, it did. It's just that they didn't continue to fund it at the level that they had prior to that. So going back to that point, the citizens probably would vote to do, and I think it should be taken to the citizens, let them vote on that issue of a bond issue to repair our roads. How much will it take over how many years and how quickly can we pay that back? And they would be willing to move forward on this.
Mm-hmm. I'm always concerned about the taking money from Peter to pay Paul, and it's delegated to pay Peter. And I think the voters should have some say-so if you're going to change the arrangement of what has been voted into the process. But on another matter, let's talk about, we're talking about saving taxpayers' money. So what do you think about no-bid contracts, which you had a couple of those in the past on the county commission board?
Yeah, most recently there was the guy with the pickleberry idea. He has these little billboards around town, and everybody, this is great. And he's a wonderful person. Everybody likes him. I'm sure now that I've said that, my opponents will get campaign contributions. That's not appropriate. Mm-hmm. If it were emergency, if we had a natural disaster where we had to have services immediately and we didn't have time to go through the proper bidding process, I could understand it. For example, the 1950s, that major tornado that came through, if we needed to come up with some services quickly, I can understand. Mm-hmm. However, I cannot understand giving a contract without first looking at all the other opportunity of people that would be there that might want to bid on it and might be as qualified or more qualified than this individual. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying the individual that got the contract is unqualified. What I'm saying is the process was not handled properly, and we cannot allow that.
Yeah, I think that it was said, too, that sometimes the lowest bid does not mean that's the best deal that the county is getting, and I thought that was a good point that was made. But I do know there are some instances where the board has had.
I tell my clients all the time, you only cry over the price of quality one time. Mm-hmm. It's the same way when you bid on something. You have to look at all the externalities to make sure that this is going to be the best fit for our community. Mm-hmm. The services that will be delivered, and the timeline that's going to be delivered properly.
As a businessman, how would you make your decisions in terms of your having to order things from various companies? How do you make that decision in terms of just your business background? You're dealing with multiple companies. How do you decide which one you're going to?
Relationships are built. And in my business, it's very important that the relationship develops. I understand when you tell me a deadline that you're going to meet, you can deliver. If you can't, it's not that your quality might not have been there, or maybe the time frame was way off, that you couldn't deliver on time. I then only go to the people, I routinely use the people that can deliver on time and the quality that's needed at a price that's affordable. If you can't deliver that, any one of those three things, you might be a secondary supplier in case of an emergency or backup in case one of my major suppliers are too booked to get something accomplished. But you have to be careful, and you have to know who you're dealing with. There's a lot of people that can talk a good game, but they can't deliver.
You said earlier that the monies that we are getting both on the federal and on the state level, that's going to be a dwindling pie, so to speak. So the dollars have to make the dollars go further that you do have. How does the county actually? I don't think most persons realize, and I certainly am learning something on the job here in terms of doing the interviews. How does the county get its money? How do they get their infusion of capital?
We get money from the state. We also get money from the the county property tax from the businesses that own businesses here and the taxes that they pay. There's also some infusion of federal funds for projects that we have going on. And with that, we have to decide what the priorities are. We put together a budget. The budget is just a little smaller than the Flint phone book. And whether it is the health services or the animal controlled or the taking care of children at the Pasadena facility in Flint Township, we have to make sure that we're getting and community mental health. The airport is part of what we do. We have to make sure we appoint people to serve on those boards, the county commissioners, who have some knowledge of what they're doing, the ability to articulate well, whether it's spoken or written, and to work as a team to get things done. Appointments should not be made just on the face of you're part of the good old boy network and boy, we like you and we're going to make sure you get appointed to whatever position. That's not appropriate. There must be some qualifications for the people that serve on these county boards, such as the road commission or the airport authority.
When you were on the Mott Community College trustee board, how many years were you on that board?
I was on there for 6 years.
For 6 years.
Yes.
Okay, and you did some treasurer work while you were there as well. I want to definitely commend you for your candidacy, and I hope you will do well in the final days before the primary. The primary comes up on the 5th of August. What are you hearing out there from the voters as you're doing your canvassing in the community and going door to door and meeting voters? What are their concerns? Some of the concerns you're hearing.
One of the big things, and each candidate, doesn't matter what you're running for, everyone's complaining about the roads. And they are a problem. I mean, and I'll explain how roads are supposed to be done. In each township, you have 2 trustees that are supposed to, with a citizen who's appointed, drive around and check out all the roads in their township, and they evaluate them. And then on an appointed day, they meet with the county road commission and give their report. The county road commission then comes to the county commissioners with a budget on how much it will cost to repair these roads and the type of work that will be done. And then the commissioners are to work with the state government, state legislators, regardless of party affiliation, to get the revenues necessary to repair our roads. Now, as anyone has ridden around the county in the past few months, or since the weather has broken, they will see that the county road commission is out diligently working. However, many of these roads, if you look at what they're doing, they're putting a small amount of blacktop on, they grind that later on, they then put tar on and they put stones on top. Hopefully that'll extend the life of roads. However, roads are built through several different layers, and as the base and the bottom of it, which is a larger stone, as those wear out over the years through the grinding of the traffic on top, that's what causes the potholes that begin from the bottom. So a lot of these, you can't have a temporary fix, which is what we're doing now. We have to have a major renovation of our roads, and we have to have a long-term plan for doing that.
Mm-hmm. I am really interested in that conversation because we went to I live in a town in Flint Township, and we went to complain about the road in our subdivision, and those roads are really bad. We've even had some of the residents to go and get some of the decision makers and let them ride down that street and tear your car up. So I definitely want to understand the process of how we get that done.
You know, we used to drive on the right side of the road in the state. Now we drive on what's left of the road.
Yes, I mean, I ride in the center because I'm afraid if I ride on the side, I'm going to hit a pothole and I got to take my car in for repairs. I mean, they are really bad. So the money comes into the county. Is that when the money comes in?
The county, yes.
And then you disperse it out to the
yes. And
various.
we went through, and we have John Daly. He takes a lot of heat. He's well educated. He does know his job quite well, very well. He has a board that's been very good, and they try to stay on top of it. But regardless of how good you are in that position, there's still the problem of money coming in. And from the state level, there has been reduced revenues. And if you look at the amount of tax breaks that the governor has given to people in the past, while he's been governor, I believe it's $36 billion in tax breaks to fat cats. And if we had only had $1 billion of that money to use for our roads, we could make a major dent in repairing our roads throughout the state.
You're the second person that has mentioned John Daly as being excellent in the things he's doing and the role he's playing, and I've heard that before. I don't really know John Daly, to be honest with you, but I have heard great things about the way he's able to handle the monies he does have and make the most of what he's doing to get his job done. We are at the 2-minute mark of our conversation, and I'll ask one last question. Then I'm going to give you 1 minute to kind of summarize what you would like to say to the voters about your candidacy and remind them of the date in which the primary will be held. I want to ask you about the election. Since Archie Bailey is not running, is it that the two top vote getters will be the ones running in November?
No, you have a Republican and Democrat. However, unfortunately, the Republicans did not field a candidate this time. So there are only Democrats in this race. There's 4 candidates, myself and 3 others. And so whoever wins the primary will go on in November, and there will not be a Republican running.
I see.
That's unfortunate because when you have a Republican running, you have the opportunity to clarify issues and to look at things from another perspective. And whether you're a Democrat like myself, and I'm a proud Democrat, or a Republican, you need to have that dialogue so people have clarified examples in their mind of what the issues are and what people stand for.
I agree with that. Okay, well, I've enjoyed the conversation. I was trying to learn something, and you really have a good handle on the issues. I've learned something in the conversation. In the last minute, I said at the very beginning of the program that I would have you at the last part of the program for the last minute to tell us about your candidacy and just tell us anything you want the voters to know as we close out the conversation.
Thank you. I'm Andrew Everman. I'm running for the 7th District County Commission seat, and that's in Vienna, Thetford, Clio, Montrose Township, Flushing, and Flushing Township. I have energy, strong voice, compassion. I also believe that we have to have transparency. We have to make sure that the voters understand that we will not disappear. I believe in performance budgeting is paramount to look at a budget, make sure the monies are being spent appropriately. I will not disappear, and I will stay out in the community talking to the constituents about the concerns that they have. The primary again is August 5th. If you don't vote for me, don't come to the polls, please. However, there's a couple of other things. Prop 1 is on the issue, and the senior millage. So you clearly want to come and vote for the one way or the other for those. But you also want to vote for Andrew Everman, 7th District County Commissioner. And with that, I thank you for having me here today, and I hope everyone gets out and votes.
Okay. We're honored to have you as our guest, and we're going to leave it at that and let you have the last words in terms of your candidacy. I hope you do well on the 5th of August. Until next time, I want you to stay tuned to all the programs here at flinttalkradio.com. And again, I want to thank Mr. Andrew Everman for coming into the studio.
Thank you.